Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Local Hour. We are concluding our preseason football talk with the one and only Walt Wells and the voice of the Colonels, Greg Stotelmyer. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Local Hour.
McKinney looks, steps into pocket, throws, open receiver, touchdown! Colonels, we're not done yet!
Our identity is we're going to press for 40 minutes, we're going to play up-tempo, we're going to play with unbelievable passion, and then our brand is the most exciting 40 minutes in sports.
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Local Hour presented by All Around Roofing. If you have a need on the exterior of your home, you can go to allaroundroofingky.com and you can find more information right there. I'm your host, Vince Stover, joined as I am every week by my co-host, the one and only Ryan Jackson. Hey, Rhino, how you doing, man?
Doing all right. Camp's right around the corner, so I'm doing really excellent. I'm excited to get back into the swing of things.
Tomorrow, right?
Yep.
So tomorrow you guys get after it. And it's really, I pre-recorded the interview with Walt Wells, and so he's ready for it too, needless to say. And lots of competition, lots of good things going on with you guys. He talked very highly about some of the fellow guys on your line as well. Gabe Fletcher, he brought up because I failed to mention. And so anyways, I think everybody's probably pretty excited about it going into tomorrow. What's the first thing you guys got to do tomorrow?
First thing, we got to get through all our regular scheduled meetings and trainings and a bunch of preseason stuff that every team has to do every year. So this is the boring part of getting fitted for everything, getting your physicals and all the boring stuff before you have to put on pads.
Yes. What's the food like during camp?
The food's pretty good, I'd say. We get a consistent amount of food. I don't know what it would be like this year. Usually the camps I've been to, they've been all different somehow. But Coach Wells will do a good job. He provides us with just enough food for all of us to eat.
He feeds you guys well. Yeah. I will tell you this for those that are tuning in. So Coach Wells does announce a starter in this interview. Not probably the one you're thinking of, but he does tell us someone who's not officially that I know of has been announced as a starter yet. You probably already know, Ryan, but it won't be a surprise to you. But he does give us one position that is a new person that is starting. So make sure you stick around for the interview for Walt Wells later on in the program and catch that. And it does come at the very end of the interview for what it's worth too. So I'm making you stick around for everything if you're watching the show. Those are called cliffhangers. But I'm excited about it. It's gonna be a good time. Now you got to go and be a guest on another show earlier tonight over on WBON's the Jack Buford Sports Show. How did that go?
Oh, it was awesome. Love those shows, especially with the people I get to talk with. Like me and D-Bake were on a podcast together, and D-Bake's been one of my better friends since we first came to campus. That's not the first time we've done an interview together. The first time we've done even the Jack Buford interview together. But being in a different location was interesting because you had to find your way around Richmond, but nothing in Richmond's less than 5 minutes away from each other. So it was fun. It was exciting. Gave them some good little intel.
Nice. Did you promote our show at all? I haven't watched the interview yet.
Nah, they didn't ask anything about some shows. I should have stopped the whole show.
I was thinking I needed to get you a shirt, if you could wear a Sports Stove shirt on there. But we like Michael and Watkins and the folks over there at WBON and appreciate them as well. And glad you got to go do that also. You've been on a billboard, you've been on TV, you're on YouTube every week. I mean, my goodness, you're ready for Sundays in the fall, right?
I'm everywhere, and I'm trying to make the most of everything I've wanted at EKU. This is exactly what I was hoping for when I first made my first commitment freshman year, and I'm living up to everything I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, we got two guests tonight. Like I said, I pre-recorded an interview with Walt Wells earlier tonight. So we're going to play that for you in a few minutes. But before we get to that one, we have a Hall of Famer in our midst. He's a Hall of Fame broadcaster. He's got several different awards as well. Everyone knows him as the voice of the Colonels, the one and only Greg Stotelmyer. Hey, Greg, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Vince. Just trying. I hope my phone power holds up. Yeah, I told you I had problems with technical issues, but I will say this, Rhino. I heard the open with the call for the McKinney touchdown pass. We need a strip sack touchdown by you so we can change the intro.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Greg, that was my favorite call in my time of being here in Richmond and stuff like that. That was my favorite call, and I was glad we were able to capture it and put it in the intro, because I remember that game sitting up in the press box just going ecstatic over that. And I know you've seen a lot of calls, but that one was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I go back to the Bowling Green game too. 7 overtimes. I think we had 6 last downs in that game where we had to score or we were going to lose. That was crazy. And, I don't know, Ryan, you asked me about the tradition of EKU. Here's a fun fact for you. And I didn't give you everything, but the first ever Division I overtime game was played by Eastern Kentucky against Nevada Reno. It was in the semifinals of the then 1AA playoffs, and we won. Now, there was another game in NAIA in 1972 that was the first couple of schools in West Virginia. But those overtime games are stressful. I think we should get paid extra.
Yeah, definitely. Right. It's called overtime for sure. Now, Greg, what is 46 seasons for you?
Yeah, I think so. There were 4 years where I didn't do the radio. We did tape delay television because the radio contract was lost at that time by the local radio station. But 46 years calling EKU games, 42 of them on radio, 46 overall. And I did the first Roy Kidd show, hosted it, and then I produced it and then back to host it. So kind of been involved for a long time. Won't mention where I went to college, but you can probably figure that out.
Now, what's incredible to me is that you do so many of the sports. It's not just football. It's pretty much everything. And I don't know how in the world you have the time to learn what you need to learn about the player. You got a lot. Your process is nuts. And the amount of information you have in front of you, that's not just pulled up on a computer screen. You're writing down stuff. So how long did it take you to really nail down your system to be ready to call a game?
Well, everybody starts in football with a depth chart. I still have my first depth chart from the national championship game in 1979, and there wasn't much on there. And now it's just crammed hieroglyphics, and nobody can understand it, color coded, and all that. And back when I was in college, I studied for tests by taking notes, and I've just kept with it because every time I think, let's go to a computer spreadsheet and do it that way, it never works for me. So I just do it old school. It adds to the preparation, but I think when you write something down, then it goes into your brain a little bit better, and so you can find it. And so I have 5 different sheets that I use for football. I have a team sheet. Here's the team sheet. I'm already started on that. That's the Mississippi State EKU team sheet. So it has all the numbers, like how many passing yards you have, first downs per game, that kind of thing. And then I track highs and lows. And when was the last time, let's say we had 400 yards rushing. When was the last time we had more rushing yards, that kind of thing. And then I have some bio information about the series and the teams and that kind of thing. And then individually on the depth chart, I kind of wait a week into the practice to go talk to the coaches and figure out, because my whole goal on preparing a depth chart for Eastern is to have everybody on there who may see the field. And so I need to kind of know who may play, and I may wait 2 or 3 games if somebody gets injured or if somebody kind of rises up to get more playing time. So I need, like Parker McKinney ate up a lot of my space on my depth chart, and so I had to make more space for him, more space for like a running back and that kind of thing. And so I kind of wait and see and allocate different space for different players.
Do you have what show the players co-hosts on there? Ryan,
I steal some things from you, like the handlebar mustache of Zach Russell versus, and I already knew, like, for instance, that Hunter Brown had played offensive tackle in high school. Some of that's in the bio. And I do a lot of my own Google stuff because you'd be surprised what you find Googling people and just trying to find things. So yeah, I try to listen to everything and get more things because I don't talk to. Football's a lot harder than basketball in talking to players because number one, they got helmets on, and you know there's a whole bunch more of them, so they're harder to get to know, and they're busy at practice. And you know we don't travel. We'll travel on the charters with them, but we don't travel. We'll travel independently to away football games that are land based. So you don't. Meanwhile, in basketball, you're around them a lot more, so it's a little bit easier to do as far as get to know the guys.
Yeah, and basketball practices in the air conditioning, whereas football is out in the sun. So that's why I like to go visit A-Dub.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan, what do you got for Greg?
I was going to ask more on your little preparation. Speaking of basketball, because basketball has something other than football, it's tournaments. So, and you're kind of a neutral party talking on both sides. How do you prepare for tournaments when you don't really know who they're going to play next, or who you can't predict who they'll play next?
Well, like when Eastern Kentucky was in the OVC semifinals, I mean, we stayed up till 5 a.m. preparing, because what I do is if I have a team that Eastern played last year, I'll keep all that information. So I don't have to redo a coach's bio or redo everything on a player. But nowadays with NIL and roster turnover, I mean, the rosters and the amount of new prep, where you're not just fact checking and seeing and adding, but you're doing a whole prep on everybody. It changes. It's crazy how much more it demands of you. And if it's hard on me, I can't imagine what it's like on coaches to deal with it, to know, is this guy going to be back or is he going to be gone, or that type of thing. So I don't know if that answered your question, but you just look for different sources. And some people will be critical of what I do versus what somebody else does, and everybody likes a different style. We're kind of like politicians in the sense that half the people will like what you do. The other half may want a different style. My style tends to be off the wall facts, if I can, about a player, to bring, where they're from. I want to know where Ryan Jackson's from. I want to know what high school in Nashville he played from. I want to know if he plays the ukulele or something. I like that kind of thing. But I also I rely a lot on statistics. I think they tell the story most of the time, especially in basketball, as far as shooting percentages. So some people say I may be too statistics heavy, but I try to be fair to both sides. Obviously, I know who I'm rooting for, because I get to know those people, but I try to be fair to both sides. And maybe I tell it like it is too much at times, but I guess that's my style, to be honest. I mean, Ryan's sitting there, and I'm not going to hide the fact that our overall total defensive yardage numbers and our passing defense yardage numbers were at the bottom of the barrel last year. Now, I'll put an asterisk on that. A lot of schools that we are up against weren't playing Cincinnati and Kentucky. They may play a Division II team at the start. And so our schedule skews some numbers a little bit. But on the other hand, I think they tell a story. And, I expect our defense to be better this year. The offense, we lost a lot. Who's going to step up? But we lost our number one running back and kick returner. We lost our number one wide receiver. We lost one of the best ever, if not the best ever, quarterback ever at Eastern Kentucky, who's top 10 in total offense yards in FCS history. So there's a lot of holes to fill. So we'll see. But that's kind of my take on it. And I'm really interested in what Walt has to say, because I have no idea. I stay away from the coaches and leave them alone for the most part in the summer and even in the spring. And then I go, really full throttle once we get going, because I'm not a kind of person that, really thinks I get much in the middle of the summer, even though they're working hard and they know what's going on.
Yeah, and that takes a relationship, right? Where when you do get to talk to the coach and when you are nailing down your stuff, there has to be a trust between you and the coaches, where they're going to give you information that maybe it's good for you to know, but not necessarily good for you to share at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'll tell you what I say to them. I say, look, this isn't public. What I need to know is this player going to play? How much are they going to play? And I know they can't answer that full because things can change. But to make a chart that I'm going to try to use throughout the year, I need to have an idea of who gets on there and who doesn't get on there. And, like, are you going to play? Are you just going to be a special teams player? And when I say just, that's a really important part of the game. But, I obviously Ryan's going to get a bigger chunk of the defensive chart than he did when he was a freshman, right? So where did your dad graduate from college?
He went to
same place I did. Yeah.
Now, what about stalling? So you get a rain delay, lightning delay, or baseball. Sometimes you got to find a way to fill some space. Is that you just using your normal prep work on that, or are you telling Wes and whoever's partnering with you, hey, you better be ready to talk some here?
Yeah, well, we just see what the situation is. I remember when Akron was in the Ohio Valley Conference, you could see it coming off the lake, off Lake Erie, coming towards us like a really bad thunderstorm, and we had a delay, and we kind of stayed on the air because we didn't know how long. The new AD at EKU was at Missouri State when we had the lightning, tornado, and everything else warning and delays, and the game got pushed back from the Thursday night to the next day, and we were on the air for a while, and then they evacuated the entire stadium, and we went off the air, and we would send updates back in, but you just kind of play that by ear. It's kind of not like baseball where it seems like they stay on. They used to stay on. What was it? Marty Brenneman had the bat phone or something. When the Reds would go in a rain delay.
Yeah, and I'm a Brewers fan, so Bob Euchre, and he tells stories the whole game. It's great.
I would rather listen to rain delays with him than the game. He's so good.
Yeah, for sure. What is the most memorable game that you've called in 46 years?
Well, some people look at me kind of like cross-eyed when I say this. I was so young when we had that run of success in football. The first 4 years I did the radio were the 4 years we went to the national championship and bookended it with a win over Lehigh in 79 and the win over Delaware in 82. The most heartbreaking loss ever was the loss to Boise State in 80 in Sacramento. And so I wish I could do that one more. No pressure, Ryan, but it's been 30 years now. This is hard to believe. It's been 30 years since we won a playoff game. 30 years. And that's hard to believe because we was looking at it here. I like to go back and look at the info. We were like in the playoffs for 10 straight years, 1 year for one run, 9 years in a row, another run. I mean, you always knew you were in the playoffs. So again, just so young that while those were calling a national championship is great, but I would love to do it when I was more mature and more polished at the craft. Probably to me, because I grew up in Indiana, I was a big basketball fan, still am. Probably the most memorable game to me was when Travis Ford and his team with Matt Witt and Michael Haney and all those guys, they won the OVC tournament in Nashville and made the tournament, the NCAA, for the first time in 25 years. I had just come to Richmond when they won in 79, but I had just got my feet wet and was the news director at the local radio station. And I was there when they won the OVC tournament, but I didn't call the game. So really probably just that 2005 season and ending and going to the tournament and giving Kentucky a good run was probably the most memorable ever. Even though football's obviously had over the years that I've done it, more success than basketball. That was a memorable. My favorite basketball team, probably, even though I love the 05 team, there was just something special about the 2014 team with Glenn Cozy and Corey Walden and Eric Stutz and all those guys, the late Jeff Johnson. that was pretty fun too. So, and football, we've had, great. I would have said the Kentucky game if we could have held on, but by gosh, they just let them hold Noah Spence a little too many times in a row down there to come from 2 touchdowns behind.
Ryan, what else you got for Greg?
I gotta ask, what made you want to do something like this? Like, did you have any inspiration growing up, or is there someone you saw do it first?
Well, you've seen me. I'm 5'6", and that's stretching it, right? And I was in basketball crazy Indiana at a good high school, and we had 3 teams in my freshman class alone. I was on the C team, couldn't remember the plays, and I knew come sophomore year I'd be cut. If you're on the freshman C team, you're not making the JV. And my sophomore year of high school, my high school won the Indiana State tournament that year. So I was since I was in elementary school, I was into basketball, and I'd take a TV tray down to our basement where we had a TV and a scorebook and practice and that kind of thing. So I just always kind of knew that's what I wanted to do, because I wasn't going to be able to play the sport at a high school senior level. Junior high, elementary school, sure. So I had to stay involved. I was the manager of the manager of the track team in 9th grade. I'm like, this isn't for me. It was kind of cool to be around the program, and I was fortunate in my high school. They were one of the first in the state, and maybe one of the first in the nation, to have a television studio in our high school. And we did homeroom news, and then we did tape delay on the local cable system. Cable was in its infancy of all of our high school games, or all of our home basketball and football games. We did wrestling and volleyball and a swim meet and all that. So I was lucky my junior and senior years of high school. I was lucky to be able to, do some play-by-play. I wasn't very good at it, but I learned and I got help. And then when I got to college, I got jobs at the local radio stations and started, moving up there.
What is the relationship with a coach that you cherish the most in your time at EKU?
That's Roy Kidd. Just because he's the legend. He's top 10 all-time winning coach in college football history. He was such a competitor. He could evaluate talent, but he was, Roy was Roy. He wasn't what you saw was what you got, and we got along. I did his television show for years. We'd sit there waiting for the production crew to be ready, and on a Sunday morning after a overnight trip home, and I didn't go hang out at his house with him or anything, but I had a good relationship with him, and it was hard and it was difficult, but it was an honor to be one of the 3 people that spoke at his funeral service, and I just did the memory part of it. And I thought it was touching that the entire football team was there to honor him. And so I can't. And look, I've gotten along with almost every coach. I could name a couple in basketball that were a little tougher than all the others, but I think I got along with all of them. I hope they believe the same thing that I do. And, I think having a good relationship with a coach is important, but also knowing your boundaries, that at times you're going to have to tell it like it is. But AW and Walt have been great to me. Walt is very honest with me, and we sit down and talk and just kind of kick things around. We have a time we meet, and then he helps me understand what's going on with certain things. And then AW is charismatic and is great to talk to, and has energized the fan base here. And so the current coaches I get along with very well. And I need to count up how many coaches I've worked for. For Roy Kidd for a long time. With Roy, it was, I did his games for about so he started head coach in 64. I started in 79. He retired in 92. So quick math, at least about half of it. So that's an honor to call so many games with him. So I've got to say Roy Kidd. Who else would you knew what my answer was going to be, right?
Yeah, I assume. Yeah.
The stadium's named after him, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we got some coaches right now that are really easy to interview. You talked about AW being charismatic, and I know Wes does the girls' games, but Greg Todd same way. I mean, it's easy to talk to. John Abazani, easy to talk to. Walt Jones, easy to talk to. So we've got a good group of coaches right now from an interviewer's perspective that's really easy to talk to. And
Yeah, the toughest thing to do is talk to a coach after a loss. And I mean, I struggled and I knew it was going to be hard, and I felt so bad to talk to AW after the loss to Jacksonville, because I mean, nobody wanted it more than he did to get to the NCAA tournament. My phone battery's getting low, guys.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I was running to try to find a plug-in, so I hope I don't. I've probably talked your leg off already.
No, I love it.
Are we going to be good on defense, Ryan?
That's the goal. I think we got defenses that's coming to attack. Like, we got a lot more attitude on the defense nowadays. So it'll be a different vibe at least.
And I think we've done some things in the defensive backfield to make us better too. I know I talked with Walt a little bit about that, and both coaching on, getting on the same page about their game plan and the guys he's brought in. I'm excited for the season.
It is going to be a blast. And Greg, I think it's going to be, well, you'll hear from Coach Wells, but I think the team's going to meet or exceed the outside expectations. And of course, there's high expectations inside the room. And so that'll be the goals that they'll have to meet. But we're excited to listen to it. I love listening to sports on the radio, Greg. So when I can't make it, I prefer to turn on the radio versus the TV and listen to you. So good luck for the rest of the season, man.
Everybody wants the video now, and I understand that, but man, there's something about just listening, right? There's something that makes it magical. So I'm with you there, but we're old school.
We are indeed. Well, Greg, I appreciate your time, and I'm glad everything worked out technology-wise as well. And we'll see you around practices and games here in the coming weeks as well. So thanks again. Really do appreciate you coming on.
I think it starts 2 days. We get going. I'm ready.
That's right. We were rolling. All right. Thanks, Greg. Greg Stotelmyer. He's the voice of the Colonels, the Hall of Famer. He's a true professional, and appreciate Greg and all that he puts into the games. He doesn't take it lightly, even though he's been doing it for 46 years. He puts a lot of work into it, and a lot of people don't understand, Ryan, where they'll hear high school sports and whatever, and they just assume, oh, it's really easy. And if you know the sport, it's easy enough to talk about when the game's going on, but there's so much information, and Greg does a great job. And the team, it's not just Greg too. Like I said, Wes Chandler does a phenomenal job with what he does as well. And so appreciate Greg. And if you've grown up in Richmond and that's all you're going to miss it when it's gone. It's great stuff. Great stuff. All right. Well, Ryan, we're going to go to the interview with Walt Wells. Before we do that, we'll let you go because it's just pre-recorded, so we won't make you sit around for it as well. And but excited, man, excited for you guys to get to it. And we're hoping for healthy camp and everybody getting back where they need to be, and we'll be off and running here in no time. You'll be sitting in Mississippi State celebrating a big win.
Yes, sir. That's the goal. Something new, something exciting, and we're just ready to get started. I think that we're ready to show what we can do.
Well, I tell you what, I'm ready to watch what you can do all at the same time. Ryan, I appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you down the road. I know you're gonna be busy here the next several weeks. So we'll talk to you again pretty soon, though. Okay.
Of course. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Ryan Jackson. We'll send him off now. What we're going to try to do is pull up this interview, and I'm not great at this, and I'm the one doing the production on this. So let me see if I can pull up the correct thing here, and let's take a listen to the interview with Walt Wells. All right. So we have some technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do, if you're watching, having some technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do, if you're watching, is I'm going to post the interview with Coach Wells on our YouTube page, and just as a completely separate YouTube video. And I apologize for it not working the way I was hoping it would. But hey, it's okay. We'll get it done. So like I said, just go check back into YouTube in about 10 to 15 minutes. It'll be up there ready to go for you. We'll stream it on there, and then we'll have the rest of the episode available on the audio as well. So appreciate you tuning in tonight. Greg was phenomenal, and you're going to love the Wells interview too. So make sure you check back shortly on YouTube. We'll have that going on for you. And then again, if you rather listen to the audio version, it'll be on the Sports Stove podcast audio as well. So wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever it may be, we'll have it loaded under there later tonight as well. So apologize for the technical issues, but hey, it's live TV. That's what happens. So awesome time. Football season's right around the corner. We'll talk plenty more football in the days ahead as well. Appreciate you tuning in and sticking with us. And until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.